The United States is potentially on a knife's edge away from war with Iran. I can't believe I'm even having to say this out loud. As you notice, I'm not at my normal set here. I was actually out on a jog, and Gary had sent me some information, some breaking news that is coming out from a couple of different sources. Then I independently got contacted from some other people who say there's some things going on that concern them, meaning things are moving around in the region and something bad could be coming possibly within hours today. Maybe nothing happens because we're also trying to deter things. I know a lot's going on the diplomatic level, and let's hope that continues apace and that it succeeds and calms things down. But we have to be prepared, and we have to be paying a lot of attention because things could go really bad. Now, as we talk, you saw on our show earlier today, and in case you missed it, FBI Director Wray went before Congress yesterday and said, hey, there's a lot of things going on right now, a lot of moving pieces that are not good for America in the background.
As I look back over my career in law enforcement, I would be hard-pressed to think of a time where so many threats to our public safety and national security were so elevated all at once. But that is the case as I sit here today.
And why is that? Why are so many things all at once? What's going on in the Middle East that's causing all these troubles? Why have American troops been killed already in the Middle East? Why is American naval assets in the Red Sea taking out targets in Yemen? Why are we taking out targets in Baghdad, assassinating leaders in Baghdad? Why are we shooting people in Syria? All of this is surrounding Israel because of Israel's war with Hamas. All the things that they've been doing, the way they've been conducting that war, that's crucial. Not just that they were attacked on 10/7 and they had a right to respond, but how they've been doing it is causing a lot of repercussions and ramifications for us. Now then, because Israel chose on April the 1st to attack the embassy of Israel, not just assassinate one of their leaders, as they had done many times actually since October 7th, they chose the most painful, emotional target they could, designed, I believe, to draw a response from Iran. Yesterday, Netanyahu went out before his people and went in front of a fighter jet and talked to some of his fighter pilots and said this.
אמרתי שאנחנו בימים מאתגרים. אנחנו בעיצומה של המלחמה בעזה שנמשכת במלוא עוזה. במקביל אנחנו ממשיכים במאמצים שלא נפסקים כדי להחזיר את חטופינו. אבל אנחנו נערכים גם לתרחישים של אתגרים מזירות אחרות. ואנחנו קבענו עיקרון פשוט. מי שפוגע בנו, אנחנו פוגעים בו. אנחנו נערכים לענות על הצרכים הביטחוניים של מדינת ישראל, גם בהגנה וגם בהתקפה.
And of course, as we pointed out there, the fact that he points out offensively, and he's standing before the power projection capacity they have. They obviously don't need those fighter jets to go after Hamas. So who do you think that's for? So he's talking about that like they're already prepared for doing this, right? So now then today, I get from Gary, he sends me some information, and somebody else sent me some information. Gary, if you can throw those up on the screen there, that the United States is moving lots of assets in the area. That a lot of naval power is going into the Red Sea. The USS, I believe, Dwight Eisenhower, to potentially engage with targets that may be coming from Iran. Like we're getting ready to fight there. That the force posture has been raised. That the U.S. has been sending more troops into the area very quietly, but very methodically. Then we also have this here. This is just from earlier today. Now, both of these are. But apparently Qatar and Kuwait have informed us that they are not going to allow us to use any of their facilities or territories if we fight Iran. So now even our friends, places that we've been forever, places that we have helped defend, are now telling us, hey, if you're going to do anything with Iran, you're not going to do it here. So that's going to significantly complicate anything that we may do. But just hours ago, President Biden was at a press conference, and he was talking about a number of things, and he was asked before he left, what is the situation with Iran? Is there reason to be worried? Here's what he said.
How imminent do you think an attack on Israel is from Iran, Mr. President?
I don't want to get into secure information, but my expectation sooner than later.
Mr. President, Mr. President, to Iran in this moment?
Don't.
Are American personnel and assets at risk, Mr. President? Mr. President, are American troops at risk as well?
We are devoted to the defense of Israel. We will support Israel. We will help defend Israel. and Iran will not succeed. Thank you very much.
What would trigger a direct U.S. response, sir?
Okay, now, one of the big reasons why those kind of things concern me, when he talks about that, he's literally acting as though, number one, there's some sort of Article 5 guarantee between the U.S. and Israel, like in NATO, that if attack on one is an attack on all, so we have to respond. That's number one. No, there's not. There's not any kind of Article 5 guarantee whatsoever. We give them billions of dollars every year for defense so that they can handle their own national security. So they don't need our help. And to him acting like it's almost a reflexive issue that he's going to get engaged with Iran if they do something to Israel is big time problematic. Much more problematic there, actually, is the fact that the only reason, which he did not mention, and hardly anybody in the administration mentions, this much of these commentary from the Pentagon about what's going on with this force buildup doesn't mention that the only reason that there's a risk of an Iranian strike right now is not because they just want to go on some attack and they just choose to go to war with us or something. It's because of what Israel did on April the 1st. So this is a retaliation from that. So if we get sucked into a war because of what Israel did, that is antithetical to U.S. national security. That is harmful to us. We should, under no circumstances, get drawn into a war because Israel took a very foolish and provocative action. We got to call this what it is, folks. It was an unnecessary and provocative action, what Israel did. And now then, and again, the evidence is pretty strong that this was Israel's intent all along and that they want to draw the United States in because they can't go to war with Iran on a basis where they have any chance to succeed without our help. They can do a lot of things, but they're very, very limited. They need us to help project power. They need us to take care of some other things in different directions in Israel or in Iran. They can't do it all. Okay, then don't start a damn war. If you can't handle it on your own, don't start a war because that's actually what's going on here. While they're trying to allegedly win this war against Hamas in their own territories, now then they're taking actions outside that could expand this beyond it. Now, those two things are problematic to me. But what the bigger issue is, the number one issue right now, and one of the reasons I wanted to make this right now, especially before anything does happen, if it does, is that before Biden orders one missile fired, sends one troop into harm's way, or launches any rockets or anything else from the United States, he has to get congressional approval. The U.S. Constitution and the 1973 War Powers Act expressly prohibit the president from using the U.S. military against another opponent, against another country, unless two things. Number one is that our forces were attacked. And if Iran does that, then they're cutting their own throat because now that he actually can, at least for a limited time. He can respond if they do that. Short of that, he is not authorized by the Constitution to do that unless we're attacked, or the other one is that Congress gives pre-authorization, that Congress declares war, or they give some kind of UCJ, some kind of an authorization. They haven't done that. So Biden can't do that because we don't even have a treaty, an alliance, a fighting treaty with Israel. And the Congress hasn't authorized it. So he can't just use it. So listen, folks, you have to authorize a war. You do, the American people. We have to be on board with this. And I assure you, most people are not going to be on board. Like a vast majority of people are not going to be on board for a war that doesn't need to be fought, that has nothing but loss for the United States and has no upside potential. And anybody who thinks otherwise has not been paying attention for the last several decades. I mean, let's go all the way back to the Vietnam War, and everything forward has been disastrous when we have chosen wars. None of them have ended well. Many of them are still going on to this day. We're still in Somalia, for crying out loud. We're still in Iraq this day. And we shouldn't have ever been in either one of those places. That's the truth. Now, those are embarrassing. We obviously, you know, the issue with Afghanistan. It can get so much worse with Iran, for reasons I've told you before. And it is time for us to stop this nonsense. It is time for us to say, all right, enough is enough. Follow American law. Don't get drawn into a war on somebody else's benefit. Don't use American forces for the Israeli Defense Forces. That's what they pay their forces for. If Netanyahu wants to take his nation to war, then that's a sovereign country. He can make his own choices and he'll pay the consequences or the benefits for his actions. But that does not justify him drawing us into a war, and we sure don't need to be rewarding him by doing exactly what he wants and being used like fools to go fight a war for him that's not in our interest. I hope to God that doesn't happen. I know for sure because the people I've talked to that there's lots of things happening in the background diplomatically. I pray that those continue on and that cooler heads prevail, and that even though we have more weapons in the area and that Iran is almost certainly going to do something, hopefully some diplomatic cool heads can prevail and we can avoid this. But in case they don't prevail, I wanted to make sure you had this right now, so we had it on the record that if something does go south, do not send American forces into war until U.S. Congress allows it, or unless we decide that that's what America wants to do. But America's voice has to be heard. That's the bottom line here. And I pray to God that never happens. Thanks for joining us here. Again, we'll be back. We have some more shows and other things for you tomorrow, and I guarantee you we will be tracking this. And if anything does happen, you can count on Daniel Davis Deep Dive to keep you updated. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on Daniel Davis Deep Dive.